The airport was bustling with travelers, announcements echoing through the terminal. Among the crowd, a young black girl, no older than 10, stood near the gate, clutching a small backpack. Her wide eyes darted around, scanning the sea of passengers. She looked lost. Tessa Morgan, the gate agent, tapped away at her computer, barely glancing up. The girl hesitantly stepped forward. "Excuse me, ma'am," she said softly. Before she could finish, Tessa cut her off. "Sweetheart, are you lost? Where are your parents?" The girl fidgeted. "I was supposed to meet my dad here, but Tessa sighed dramatically. "Listen, kid, I don't have time for this. Go find security." "But I said go find security." Tessa snapped, her patience gone. Passengers nearby turned to watch. Some exchanged glances, but no one intervened. The little girl's lip quivered. "That I just need to call my dad," she whispered. Tessa folded her arms. "And who is your dad, exactly?" Before the girl could respond, a teenage boy nearby stepped in. "Hey, lady, she's just asking for help. You don't have to be rude." Tessa shot him a glare. "Mind your business." The girl swallowed hard and looked around helplessly. Then, as if the universe had heard her silent plea, a deep, authoritative voice rang out behind them. "Is there a problem here?" Tessa's face paled as she turned around. Standing before her was a tall, imposing man in an expensive suit, his expression ice-cold. The girl gasped. "Daddy!" Tessa's breath caught in her throat. The man staring her down was none other than Senator Jonathan Hayes. Tessa's heart pounded as she stared at the towering figure of Senator Jonathan Hayes. The man was no ordinary traveler. He was one of the most influential senators in the country, known for his fierce advocacy for civil rights. And she had just dismissed his daughter like a nuisance. The little girl, Madison Hayes, ran into her father's arms. "Daddy! I tried to tell her, but she wouldn't listen." Senator Hayes knelt, brushing a curl from Madison's forehead. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" His voice was calm, but there was a fire in his eyes. Madison nodded. "I just got confused. I asked for help, but she cast a nervous glance at Tessa. Tessa swallowed hard, forcing a smile. "Sir, I didn't know she was your daughter. I thought she was just what?" Hayes cut her off, his tone razor-sharp. "A child in need of help? Someone you could brush off without a second thought?" Tessa stammered. "And no, sir, Before she could finish, a passenger pulled out their phone, recording the scene. Whispers spread through the gate area. A few bystanders looked on with disapproval, while others pulled up news articles about Jonathan Hayes, realizing exactly who was standing before them. "Isn't that the senator who fights against discrimination?" someone murmured. "You really messed up," another whispered. Tessa's face turned beet red. She knew she had to fix this before it spiraled. "Senator, I sincerely apologize for the misunderstanding," she said, her voice strained. "I was just following protocol." "Protocol?" Hayes' eyes darkened. "Your job is to assist passengers, especially a child who needed your help. Instead, you dismissed her." Tessa opened her mouth, but no words came out. Senator Hayes straightened up, towering over her. "I hope you realize, Ms. Morgan, that you just made a very public mistake." Tessa's stomach dropped. The video was still rolling, and she could already see the headlines forming, and it was about to get a lot worse. Tessa's hands trembled as she glanced around. More passengers had taken out their phones, recording the scene. Some whispered among themselves, while others typed furiously, likely posting about the incident on social media. Senator Hayes turned to his assistant, a sharp-dressed woman holding a phone to her ear. "Janine, get the airline's regional manager on the line. Now." Tessa's stomach tightened. The regional manager? This wasn't just a simple complaint, it was escalating fast. "Sir, please, Tessa blurted out, her voice laced with desperation. It was an honest mistake. An honest mistake? Hayes repeated, his eyes narrowing. You saw a lost little girl, and instead of helping her, you dismissed her because of what? The color of her skin? The way she looked? Tessa shook her head rapidly. No, sir. That's not what happened at all. Madison clung to her father's hand, looking up at Tessa with sad, confused eyes. You told me to move because I was in the way, she said softly. Even when I said I was lost. Tessa felt a lump rise in her throat. Had she really been so dismissive? In her rush to clear the gate area, had she overlooked what was right in front of her? Janine hung up the phone. The regional manager is on his way, she announced. And, Senator, news outlets are already picking up the story. Tessa's eyes widened. News outlets? She turned to see a man in a suit whispering to another passenger. A local journalist, perhaps, the senator sighed, rubbing his temples. Ms. Morgan, I don't make it my mission to ruin people's lives. But what you did today was wrong. And now, the world is going to see it. Tessa's knees felt weak. She had made a terrible mistake, and it was already too late to undo it. Tessa's pulse pounded as she watched the murmurs spread like wildfire. More passengers turned their attention toward them, some recording, others shaking their heads in disapproval. This is getting out of control. She turned toward Senator Hayes, swallowing her pride. Sir, please, she pleaded. Let me make this right. I can help Madison get where she needs to be. I didn't mean, Hayes cut her off with a cold stare. Didn't mean what? To treat my daughter like she didn't belong here? His voice was sharp, each word cutting deeper than the last. Tell me, Ms. Morgan, how many other little girls have you dismissed like that today? Tessa opened her mouth, but no words came out. Just then, a man in a crisp navy suit rushed toward them. His airline badge gleamed under the fluorescent lights. Senator Hayes, he greeted, his voice breathless but professional. I'm Alan Richards, the regional manager. I sincerely apologize for this situation. I assure you, we take matters like this very seriously. Hayes turned toward him, his jaw tight. Then you'll understand why I'm demanding an immediate investigation into your staff's treatment of passengers, especially unaccompanied minors of color. Richards blanched. Sir, please, let's discuss this privately. We don't want to cause a scene. Hayes let out a dry chuckle. A scene? You think I'm causing the scene? He gestured around them, where multiple passengers had their phones out, already capturing every second. No, Mr. Richards. Your employee caused this scene. And now, it's out there for the world to see. Tessa's stomach churned. She could already picture the headlines: Gate agent turns away lost black child, powerful senator demands justice. She wasn't just in trouble. Her entire career might be on the line. The tension in the airport terminal was suffocating. Tessa could feel the weight of every passenger's stare drilling into her. Her throat tightened as she looked around, realizing that this moment, this mistake, was spiraling into something far bigger than she ever imagined. Senator Hayes stood tall, his face unreadable. Madison clung to his side, her expression a mix of confusion and hurt. The cameras were still rolling, passengers whispering among themselves, some already typing away on their phones. Then, a sharp voice cut through the chaos. Excuse me. A woman in a navy blue pantsuit approached. Her airport ID badge swung from her neck. What's going on here? Richards, the regional manager, turned to her quickly. Carla, we have a situation. Carla's gaze flicked to Tessa, then to Senator Hayes. She immediately stiffened. Senator Hayes, I sincerely apologize. I can assure you this does not reflect our company's values. If there's anything we can do to rectify this, you can start by explaining why an unaccompanied minor was turned away at the gate. Hayes interrupted, his voice sharp. Why a child, my child, was left stranded, questioned, and humiliated. Carla shot a glare at Tessa, who could barely breathe. It was a misunderstanding, Tessa stammered. I thought she was lost. I didn't know you didn't know because you didn't ask, Hayes snapped. A new voice joined in, this time from a woman in the crowd. You wouldn't have done this if she was a little white girl, she muttered. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Tessa's face burned. She wanted to argue, to defend herself, but deep down, she knew, this looked bad. Really bad. Carla exhaled sharply. Tessa, I think you should step away from the counter. Tessa's stomach dropped. But now. Senator Hayes folded his arms. Oh, don't worry. This isn't over. Tessa knew it wasn't. Because by the time she reached the break room, her phone was already blowing up with notifications, her name was everywhere. Tessa's hands trembled as she scrolled through her phone. Her name was plastered all over social media, and not in a good way. Gate agent refuses to let black girl board flight. Her dad? A U.S. senator. Airport employee accused of racial profiling. Watch the shocking video, #Justice for Madison trends nationwide after disturbing airport incident. She clicked on one of the videos. It was a passenger's recording, showing the exact moment when Senator Hayes confronted her. The comments were brutal, she needs to be fired immediately. Imagine how many other kids like Madison have gone through this but didn't have a senator for a dad. This is why we need better training for airline employees. Disgusting. Tessa's breath hitched. She never expected this to go viral. She had made a mistake, a terrible one, but she wasn't a bad person. Was she? A new notification popped up. A message from a friend, Sarah, girl, have you seen CNN? Tessa's stomach dropped. She flipped to the news app, her worst fear confirmed. It wasn't just social media anymore. National news outlets had picked up the story. The headline was chilling: Senator Hayes demands investigation after airport incident. This is about more than just my daughter. Tessa's entire world was crumbling. She could already imagine the consequences, the angry emails, the disciplinary meeting, the potential firing. A sharp knock on the break room door made her jump. Carla, the supervisor, stepped in, her face unreadable. Tessa, she said, her voice tight, corporate wants to see you. Now. Tessa swallowed hard, she wasn't ready for what was coming next. Tessa's legs felt like lead as she followed Carla through the airport corridors. Every step toward the conference room felt like walking toward a guillotine. When they entered, 3 executives from the airline's corporate office sat at the long glass table, their faces grim. The company's PR director was there too, typing furiously on her laptop. Tessa barely had time to sit before the questioning began. What were you thinking? One of the executives asked, his voice laced with frustration. Did you even check the system properly before denying the child? Another demanded. Tessa opened her mouth, but no words came out. What could she even say? That she made a mistake? That she assumed Madison was alone because of her skin color? That she let her personal biases get in the way of doing her job? She couldn't bring herself to admit it. I was just following protocol, she stammered, knowing it was a weak excuse. The PR director sighed, rubbing her temples. Tessa, do you have any idea how much damage this has done? We are being called out for racial discrimination on a national level. The lead executive leaned forward. Senator Hayes is demanding a formal apology. The company is getting thousands of complaints. If we don't act fast, we could lose partnerships and federal contracts. This isn't just about you, this is about our entire airline. Tessa's stomach twisted. She hadn't realized the scale of the problem. The room fell silent for a moment. Then, the lead executive spoke again, his tone final. We have no choice but to suspend you indefinitely while we investigate. Tessa's breath hitched. Suspended? The executive nodded. Effective immediately. Her heart pounded. This was worse than she had imagined. Her career was hanging by a thread and she had no idea what would happen next. Tessa left the conference room in a daze. Her mind was racing, but no amount of thinking could undo what had just happened. She was suspended. And worse, her name was already spreading like wildfire. By the time she reached the employee locker room to grab her things, her phone was vibrating non-stop. Notifications flooded her screen, texts from coworkers, missed calls, and news alerts. Then, she saw it, #boycott Skyline Airlines was trending on social media. The video of her turning Madison away had gone viral. Millions had watched her actions play out, dissecting every moment. The comments were brutal. Another case of blatant discrimination. When will this stop, that poor little girl? Can you imagine how scared she must have been? Fire her. No excuses. Tessa's chest tightened as she scrolled. This wasn't just about her anymore. People were dragging the entire airline, calling for boycotts, demanding change. Her co-workers were whispering as she walked past. Some looked at her with pity. Others with thinly veiled anger. As she reached the exit, Carla caught up to her. Tessa. I don't know what to say. Tessa clenched her jaw. Say what you really think, Carla. You think I deserve this? Carla hesitated. You made a mistake, Tessa. A big one. She sighed. But I also know that if you don't own up to it, this will ruin you. Tessa wanted to argue, to defend herself. But deep down, she knew Carla was right. She had spent her whole career believing she was just doing her job. But now, the world was telling her a different story and she wasn't sure how to fix it. Tessa sat in her small apartment, staring at her laptop screen. Her hands trembled as she drafted a statement, trying to find the right words. She had to say something. The world was watching. The airline had already released a formal apology, distancing themselves from her actions. But that wasn't enough. People wanted to hear from her. She took a deep breath and typed. I deeply regret my actions at the airport that day. I never intended to cause harm, but I now understand how my actions affected Madison and her family. I am truly sorry and will take this as a lesson to do better. She read it over and over. It felt hollow. But she had no idea what else to say. With one click, she posted it. Within minutes the responses poured in. This isn't an apology. This is damage control. You didn't intend harm. You humiliated a lost little girl. Say her name. Say Madison's name. This is just a weak excuse to save your job. Not buying it. Tessa's stomach dropped. No matter what she said, people weren't going to forgive her. Then, a news alert popped up. Senator Reid was giving a statement. She quickly clicked the video. He stood behind a podium, his face serious, his voice steady. This isn't just about my daughter. It's about every black child, every black person who has been turned away, ignored, and mistreated because of bias. This should never happen again. Tessa's hands gripped the edge of her desk. He wasn't just calling for justice, he was calling for real change, and Tessa knew there was no escaping what came next. Tessa arrived at the airline's headquarters early the next morning, summoned for an urgent meeting. She had barely slept. The backlash online had been relentless. The airline executives weren't just concerned about bad press, they were worried about legal consequences. She sat across from her supervisor, whose face was tight with frustration. Tessa, he began, sliding a paper across the table. We're terminating your employment, effective immediately. Her stomach dropped. Please, there's nothing to discuss, he interrupted. The senator is pushing for an internal review, and honestly, after the public reaction, this is the only move we have. Tessa's hands trembled as she signed the termination papers. She had lost everything in just 48 hours. Meanwhile, Senator Reid wasn't stopping at just a press conference. He was meeting with airline executives, pushing for mandatory bias training and stricter policies to prevent discrimination. Madison, though still shaken, was starting to feel safe again. Her father had assured her that no one would ever treat her like that again. And this time, he would make sure his words had power. Days later, the airline announced sweeping policy changes, including better training for gate agents, stricter oversight, and a direct hotline for passengers who felt discriminated against. It wasn't just an apology, it was action, and the world took notice. Tessa, now unemployed and shunned online, watched the news with a hollow feeling in her chest. She had never imagined one decision could change her life so drastically, but for Madison and many others, this wasn't just about Tessa. It was about justice, and justice had finally been served. Discrimination has no place in our society. Madison's story is just one example of how bias and prejudice can hurt innocent people, but it also shows the power of standing up for what's right. If you believe in fairness and equality, share this story to raise awareness. Let's make sure no child ever has to feel lost, alone, or unworthy because of how they look. Have you ever witnessed or experienced discrimination? Speak up. Change starts with us.